Hi. You know it's Shakespeare when a single piece of laundry can cause this many problems. If you want to know what that means, don't go anywhere.
Stay tuned. Hi, and welcome to the ArtsFam podcast.
The only show of its kind that spotlights the arts and entertainment scene in Southern Maryland.
We're your hosts, Renate, Pommerenck, and James LePore. And every episode, we bring you an engaging interview with a local artist or entertainer that's part of something that you can enjoy this week in Southern Maryland. Because, as you're always saying, James,
there is more to do in Southern Maryland than you have time to do.
I know that's right. Speaking of, where are we right now?
We are in one of our happy places. We are on the stage at Port Tobacco Players in the middle of this gorgeous John Merritt executed set. This is absolutely beautiful. We have just watched a dress rehearsal of Shakespeare's Othello, and we are blown away.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so speaking of Othello, let's start with you lovely folks. Okay.
Well, we have the director.
Yeah. Sorry, I was so excited. I was almost forgetting to introduce them to everybody. Mm-hmm. I was just ready to jump in. Okay. Yes, as you were saying, let's introduce ourselves.
Okay. Hi, so I'm Rachel. I am the director of Othello here at PTP.
My name is Jeremy Keith Hunter, and I'm playing Iago in Othello.
Hi, I'm Heather Weatherald, and I play Desdemona in Othello.
Hi, my name is Jalen Henderson, and I play Othello in Othello.
I like that you're Rachel with no last name. It's like Cher, and you know.
I'm a millennial. There's only one of me.
Okay. So, I'm trying to where do I want to start? There's so much. Okay, we'll start with the director.
Sure.
Girl. Okay, so many moons ago, I was not a big fan of Shakespeare, right? I thought it was this sleepy old dude who died, and it's like, why are we even bothering with this dude's works? Like, he's been dead for how long? Like, okay. But then, when I started to become exposed to Shakespeare in the Southern Maryland community, I started to see these really inventive takes. Specifically, here. Shakespeare in the park with Newtown players, they're definitely a little inventive with some of their directorial choices, which I love, but they're also more traditional with their takes, typically, which, to be fair, mad respect, that has its own lane for Shakespearean theater. But here, how I understand it, you've directed just about every single Shakespearean, and they do one every single year. So, talk to me about your approach when you were like, I'm doing Othello. How did you go about that creative process?
Sure. So the person I am always trying to reach as a director is you, right? Mm-hmm. The person who goes, oh, Shakespeare's not for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, it is. You just haven't seen it right. Yeah. No shade to teachers or anything, but it was never meant to be read. It was never meant to be heard. It was meant to be seen.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So my philosophy with Shakespeare is always that it's not as hard as you think it is. No. It's way more accessible than you think it is. And by taking something that's 500 years old and setting it now, or with Twelfth Night, I set it in the 40s. That's something that helps this audience translate it in their own brains because they're not completely taking in something new. Yeah. They're looking at something that looks familiar. Yeah. And then I cut all my own scripts as well. So these shows alone are 4.5 hours because that's all that you had to do back then.
5 acts.
Yeah, 5 acts. Yeah, if you do this without the intermission, this show is 94 minutes long.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Wait. Yeah. Oh.
I've done Midsummer before. My Midsummer's 80 minutes long.
Oh.
Yeah, okay.
So it's by being able to take stuff like this and cut it down, you streamline the story, and then people who aren't as familiar with the language don't get lost in it.
Yeah.
And that's always my goal.
Yeah, and I will say that's the really cool thing about Shakespeare, and it's got to be some weird mechanism in our brains that do it, right? But basically, I find that when I sit down to watch Shakespeare, even if I haven't watched one in a year or something, right? For the first 5 minutes or so, and I say this for the benefit of you lovely human beings out there, first 5 minutes or so, you're like, what's going on? Oh my God. And then there's like this switch that flips in your brain. And then because you have these actors and this director that guided these actors, teaching them how to emote and express themselves in such a way that, like, even if you don't understand the language, you still know what's happening because of how powerful that is.
Sure, and we talk about those first 5 minutes in the rehearsal room too, where I told him, I said, there's one of two options you have in those first 5 minutes. You hit them with exposition, they're gonna see it later anyways. Or you hit them with emotion, so they know where they should be starting. And with this one, we hit them with emotion.
And these actors are so good. I stopped hearing Elizabethan speech. And it was more like I was just absorbing something that you'd watch on TV.
100%.
So audiences should not be afraid of coming saying, I don't understand. You absolutely will understand it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, but still on the director, because I was sitting there and I was just like, during it, my brain was like, oh, what about this? What about this? Because with Shakespeare, I always do a deep dive on research before I go see the show, just because of that language barrier that I'm like, I gotta know what's going on. And what I was reading is that one of the main themes of Othello typically is patriarchy, right? But it's interesting because in this version, it was a bit more muted because of your choice to gender bend Desdemona's father into a mother. So tell me what led you there, and then honestly, I just get this really strong feminist like vision from this, especially those later scenes with Desdemona. Take me through that.
Sure. So some of it honestly comes down to who was in the audition room, right? When I walk into directing Shakespeare, I come in completely gender blind. I come in completely, blind in general, and you have to do that in areas like this, right? We don't have the luxury of putting out a casting call going, I want a white guy in his 70s, it's not an option. So that's a little where that came from, but as it started taking place, Desdemona is way stronger of a character than a lot of analysis gives her credit for, right? She stands up for herself. She really, in that close to the last scene, she's the one who chooses to let him do this to her. She makes the choice herself. So having her in that home with a mother who raised a strong daughter really kind of connects that together.
And I guess we'll segue over to you, Desdemona. Obviously, it's not your real name, but for ease of my horrible memory. It was so heart-wrenching watching your character's journey to go from being so in love with him and that love being a safe place, right? And like, I truly believed it. The way you looked at her, it was palpable. It was the way that my partner looks at me and I look at my partner. Like, God, it was, I don't know how you coach them specifically, but.
Thank you.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Unless they're actually in love in real life. Who are we to say?
She's dope.
So, but then near the, as we get to the end, she still holds on to that.
Yeah.
And how did you navigate that as an actress?
That was almost painful to watch.
Oh, God.
The betrayal. It was,
It is extremely painful because, all of the lead up to that, like everyone kind of saying what they thought about the relationship, including her mother being all like, you were scared to look at him, blah, blah, blah. And I had interpreted that as everyone has misread her. She was so in love with him and had like such this big crush and was like, this is the person who listens to me and makes me feel like an individual. She has this individualism that rides through, and yet it's getting dampened by outside forces that are just kind of leading there. But I think she consistently sees the best in people and the good in them. and she just cannot fathom that there is anything bad about him, and that if something were to drive him to this point, it has to be her.
Wow. So that, oh God, that's adding layers.
Yeah.
That's adding, oh God, that's opening questions in my mind. I don't know how far you go into the creative process when you have a character, but did you happen to come up with a little backstory of how she became this way?
I think it's just been kind of the overbearing mother who is teaching her to be a strong woman, and she's strong in her own way. She's not necessarily loud and strong. She has this quietness that just kind of observes and is there to help people. Like, she wants to help Cassio. She is like excited for everything that's happening for him, and she's just happy to be there. But I think like we have people who just don't take no for an answer with her, with like Roderigo, who she might have never even actually seen. She just is
Kind of what I got.
having the rotation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, she's in that blooming stage of being all like, I'm in love, my future's starting, this is everything that I wanted, and even if my mom is so upset at me, he said that he believes in me and loves me, and there's no reason for him to. He just loves, and she just loves him. And so I think that kind of just gets a little bit twisted and is mirrored almost in Amelia's journey.
Now, I want to deviate away from the characters for a minute and speak about the actual acting process, because I find this really fascinating. I'm an actor, I know how to memorize lines, but that's modern English. So if somebody says to me, hey, can I have a ham sandwich or whatever, you know, because you studied it, to say, oh, do you want mustard on that or whatever. But when you're speaking in a completely different way than we all speak in real life, how do you memorize and that type of dialogue and that much? I mean, it's more line. You all have more lines than just your most of your average shows. Tell us what the secret is to this. I'm really very interested.
So we were extremely fortunate to have a director who realized that the language is tough. And so from day one, Rachel brought in a No Fear Shakespeare. And as a teaching tool, you know, I'm sure teachers swear by it as well. Baby, I'm grown and I was glued to that thing. Whenever she would put it down, I would just like, take this. However, if it wasn't for that, to have a modern translation of it, just for, you know, the first go-rounds, to just like kind of get an idea of what's happening in the scene and to understand what's happening in the scene, it would have been a lot harder. However, with that guide, and then to be able to ask Rachel, okay, so what exactly are you looking for in the scene? And then the words start to fit a little bit better. And I'll say from the initial monologue, when I understood it and I actually started saying it more and more, I personally started to like really enjoy the words. You know, the
It tickles that part of your brain.
yeah.
That's just like, oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. There's this rhythm and articulation in Shakespeare that you can't help but just kind of like, oh, that was beautiful. I'm saying horrible things.
Yeah.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Saying everything's pretty.
Better in Shakespeare's language.
Yeah. And so that really helped. The No Fear Shakespeare, being able to at any moment kind of say, Rachel, what does this mean? What are you looking for me to do in the scene? And then to merge those two and then to let it play out, it starts to become, you start to really enjoy it. Like I can't tell you how much fun it is when you understand what you're saying and then you say it. It's beautiful.
Now, as a director, Rachel, of a Shakespeare show, and by the way, if you don't mind me saying, this is absolutely, hands down, the best Shakespeare show I have ever seen here.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, all of you. But as a director, I would imagine that you have to individually dissect each and every line, because as director, you're going to be asked to, well, what does this mean? What does this mean? So, I mean, how long have you been preparing to direct the show?
I was just talking about this the other day. So we're opening this in May of 2025. I submitted to direct this in July of 2023.
Whoa.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God.
And safe to say that part
Okay.
of you was studying this?
I
stuff?
do one show at a time for a reason.
Okay. Nice.
It's gotta be
Yeah.
overwhelming.
Yeah, it is. It is, especially when you're, like I said, I cut the script myself, right? So that's when I'm doing a lot of my personal analysis of the lines and of the script, because I've got to cut it to make sure it still makes sense.
And it did.
You know.
It
Good.
did. It made perfect sense. If I didn't know about Shakespeare and I didn't know that you had cut it, I would not have known.
Yeah, the great thing about Othello is that a lot of Shakespeare has A plots, B plots, and C plots. Like I'm going to use Midsummer as an example again because it's the one everyone knows. You've got your lovers, you've got your fairies, and then you've got whatever's going back, on back there.
Yeah.
In Othello, the only B plot's the war. It doesn't matter.
No.
It doesn't matter, because we live in an area that if the Duke looks at Othello and goes, "Hey, you're stationed here now," everyone sitting in that audience is going to go, "Yeah, that's how that works."
Yeah.
So that was an instant. That cut probably an hour out right there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just you didn't need it.
Made
You
it more
didn't need it for
interesting
this.
too. I'll tell you that. Yeah.
Now, Jalen, your Othello is a very intense, serious guy.
Yeah.
What's going on right before you walk out on stage? How are you preparing to inhabit that character?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess just going off like the first scene, that's me at my happiest, genuinely. Just got married to Desdemona. Like, I'm back. Like, everything is going well for me. But I try to carry the energy that I left off with when I come back on, and I try to create like a thought process when it comes to what is Othello trying to do? What is he trying to like gain, and what is he trying to fix or help in whatever situation it is? But I think for me, I'm really off the initial scene, I'm just driving off of the happiness that I feel for being married. And I allow myself to be hit with the certain things that Iago brings me and certain things that I see with the handkerchief to knock that down. I think I'm always starting off at a point where at my most happiest in the beginning of the play. And I think allowing that, with that, it allows me to take all the hits and kind of rawly feel what is going on and the situation at hand. But yeah, I think that's really it. It's my happiest moment.
And
being
every
married.
different, point of emotion that you hit is all absolutely believable.
Thank you.
I mean, you can absolutely say, "Oh yeah, I
you.
would do the same thing like that." It's incredible.
Thank you so
And
much.
you, master manipulator, as Iago. I mean,
my God.
Yeah.
that it just. I mean, the audience will see this. He's got this laugh that'll like send chills down your spine. Are you actually? You appear to actually be enjoying being so devious and evil.
So, I've never played a villain before. I did, and I love you, Rachel. I consider it like a special guest cameo, what we did in 12th Night.
Yeah.
Because it was like 3 lines, it wasn't anything too heavy.
And you came in late.
Yes,
too.
late into the process.
Yeah.
That being said, so this is like, I consider this my first real Shakespearean experience. And it's also playing a villain, which is also another first for me. And I want to say it was somewhere around the time we were still in the rehearsal hall, and it finally like kind of clicked that it's like, Iago wants this to happen. Iago, it's not that he like has this burning hatred of Othello, he just loves himself. Othello is this young cat, this young thundercat, who's been, bragging about this BS career, right? He's got my job. And you know what? Let's say Iago's okay with that. It's like, F it. He got the job. You're gonna give Cassio the second? Seriously, bro? Yeah. And somewhere along the lines, it's like, I'm watching the dominoes fall. And it's like, this is exactly as I planned. This is exactly as I planned. And as a creator, you just kind of, it's like, good, yay, this is what I wanted. And I start to really enjoy it. So,
Yes.
Extremely effective.
What's interesting too about this is that the way that this ended up being cast, I was talking about it like it's not me, but the way I cast this, what happened in the audition room again is that, Othello's usually older. Othello's usually like 60. And so instead,
James Earl Jones
in
is
this,
what I think of.
Denzel
as Othello.
Washington right now,
Yeah.
And what this one is showing instead is Iago is sitting there watching younger versions of himself do better. And so that creates a layer that you don't usually get with this show.
Right. And everybody can relate to that. Too.
Yeah.
And okay. I have to nerd for a second. Okay. I don't know if you were doing it on purpose, because whatever, this is rehearsal, but I swear you were looking me in my eyeballs.
I had
the
that
show,
sense
man.
too, that Jay was looking
And
right at me.
I don't know if that was just in my head, but
So I struggled initially with the soliloquies. Because I know that Shakespeare has them written so you're stepping out of the scene to a certain degree to kind of like, profess your thoughts, your inner thoughts. And my initial take on it was that these are all internal. I'm just speaking them aloud. So initially I was, and Rachel can attest to it, they were out, but I wasn't really looking at anyone. It's kind of like out to the ether, speaking aloud. These are my thoughts. And then Rachel came to me and she was like, hey, you can look at the people. You can make eye contact. You can have fun with that. And so there were moments where, especially when I'm plotting, when I'm thinking, where it's like, all right, let me get my actions together, and then this is what's gonna happen. And I intentionally try to lock in on whoever's in the immediate vicinity, because it's like, you're gonna get this piece, you're gonna get this piece. So and that's part of the fun of it.
Very effective.
yeah.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
it was so interesting because of that choice that was made, right? Whenever you would look out and there'd be this devious, like basically like you had that moment of victory, I found myself feeling it too. And for a split second, I'd be like, oh my God, why am I like...
Yeah, rooting for the villain.
I'm rooting for the psychopath. Like, am I a psychopath? You're like, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it created this idea of like, the audience feels complicit with your actions, which the first time I was ever exposed to that would have been Black Mirror show on Netflix. They had a movie called Bandersnatch, where you, the audience, get to decide where the story goes in real time. However, you quickly realize that they begin to force your hand into doing horrible things. And so that feeling, that was the first time I ever felt it, and I felt it again in this theater with you. And like you're watching the world burn, and I know that I should be like, oh no, so-and-so died. Oh, how horrible, he's a villain. But then I was just like, I'll get some marshmallows. So like, oh my God. Thank you, both of you, because wow.
Now I must talk about sound, because sound really reaches into the audience. Two separate thoughts on that. Number one, the music that the show opens with is,
And
I'm going to use the word unusual. It's like nothing that I've ever heard before. I couldn't even tell you how to recreate it. Tell me about what that is.
Sure. So I work backwards with sound. I pick my curtain call song first, and then I go, okay, this is what's going to inform the rest. So my friend Kenny, who now lives in Tennessee. There's more than just, it's a bigger state than that. I kind of put on Facebook, hey, this is the song I'm basing my thought around. Does anyone want to sound design this? And he immediately jumped on it. And he actually flew in from Tennessee for the week to be here for
I'm
Tech Week,
glad
which
he
was
did.
great. Same. But I created a playlist on Spotify of a bunch of songs it's still out there, of a bunch of songs that I was like, this is kind of the mood I'm thinking of, and just kind of threw it at him. And between the two of us, that's how we came up with a lot of the songs that are used.
It's really very amazing.
Yeah. There's one original piece in it, which is the Desdemona Othello at the end. Yeah, that's an original piece, but everything else is musical version. It's a friend of his. I'm not sure who.
Okay.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Now, while we're on the subject of sound, okay, this is something that I shared with Ren after the show. I didn't expect it to be part of this interview, but I don't want to give away the plot, but let's just say
It's 500 years old.
towards the end, right before Othello does something drastic. Go there. There is the sound of, I guess, a clock ticking. Now, the interesting thing is, as soon as it started, I felt like all the blood ran out of my body. My hands got ice cold. I felt like short of breath. I was like, why am I having this visceral reaction to this sound? And I mentioned it to Ren, and just like saying, what do you think of this? And what was your...
Right, so my initial inclination was, I was like, well, is there anything in your life where you've ever felt like you're running out of time? And the proverbial clock is ticking.
Which I
against
am.
you.
I'm going through some things right now that are very time sensitive.
Aren't we all?
So,
Aren't we all?
Yeah.
And so I wanted him to share that, simply because to tell you guys, you lovely human beings, how visceral this show is.
Yeah.
And how, even though this was written 500 years ago, between choices like the ticking of the clock and Iago making you complicit in what he's doing in his dastardly deeds. This is a very relevant, very immersive, to call this show just a show, I feel like, is a disservice to it. It's an experience. So this is one that, get your tickets early and sit as close as you can to that theater and pray to whoever you believe in that this man will lock eyes with you so that you can experience what I did.
And I have to say, honestly, people who are familiar with Othello, they think of James Earl Jones or Denzel, as you said. You're going to walk out of here thinking the same way about Jalen.
Oh,
For sure.
Thank you
For
so much.
sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Incredible performance.
Yes, and
Thank you.
I love the boyish naivete that you brought to it. I almost, in my head, correct me if I'm wrong, but I was thinking he was kind of reading like a trust fund baby who maybe he didn't fully earn this thing because of how young he is and because you have people like Iago and it was handed to him, and so it's like that's another piece that Iago uses to justify his actions. So take me from there.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one thing Rachel kind of brought to us early, was that idea of like, okay, I've gotten here, I've gotten the status, I am general, but I look around and I'm surrounded by people that should be in the sense of like old gradation, should be ahead of me, you know what I mean? So I think that's like a deep insecurity almost. And it's like in the deepest part of Othello lives that insecurity that he bolsters or he kind of shields around with the status and the sieges and, the fortunes and, the things that I have done. So really, as the play goes on, it's more of like an inside out for me. I think I allow myself to be hit with everything because I believe that Othello believes that everything is truth. Everything everything Iago says is truth. And it's a very like...
Well, that's your first mistake.
Yeah, right, I guess, right. A lot of things could have been avoided if that wasn't the case, right?
Hindsight 2020.
Right, yeah.
A free and open nature.
And that, I was literally gonna say that. That's one of the lines in the script that I just had boxed and starred. Like if you look at my script, it's just a bunch of just thought processes and a bunch of questions that I feel like Othello is asking himself in the moment and things that Jalen is asking Othello in that moment, you know what I mean? And that free and open nature really jumped out to me. And someone that is just accepting of the person that is right in front of them. And this guy makes it so he makes my job so much easier, man. Like he makes it, like I believe him to a T and I trust him to a T. And it's not even just on stage, but like I trust him like so fully. So it allows me to just receive and be in a place of, okay, he just said that to me, but maybe she's not, okay, but maybe she is. And I really wanted to see me go through that kind of thought process and the slowly breaking down, even when it comes to like physicality wise for me, that was a thing where I've been trying to pay attention to. Like I start off very, like, stern, very strong, and slowly but surely it kind of creeps in, everything kind of compresses Othello to the point where he's driven mad. So that's one thing I've just been paying attention to as the course.
Again, completely believable too.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Heather, let me ask you. You don't think you're going to sit there and not get to answer more questions, right? What do you want the audience to know about Desdemona?
Well, man, I mean, I just
Other
feel
than the fact that she's not really never mind.
she's a good person. And I think that that's kind of the thing, to where even though she is a good person, I think that everyone kind of wants to cast her as like the perfect victim. And she's a very real individual. And unfortunately, her story is something that has happened 500 years ago all the way through now. And it's one of those things to where if you start resonating with her in certain ways, I think maybe
Go see a therapist?
just like thinking inwardly, and it's like, do I lose myself when I'm around others? And it's like, do other people see me the way that I see myself? And it's like, and kind of sitting with yourself and going, who am I? Who do I trust? What are the things that I kind of hold to? And I think that even though it kind of is her fatal flaw that she holds on to trusting and to finding the good in people, that was also kind of what made everyone fall in love with her, is that she was so kind and honest.
Okay, so that has me thinking now, okay? So while I'm watching this, I'm like, oh, Othello's supposed to be like the foil to Iago, blah, blah, blah. No, I amend that thought right now. You are the foil to Iago. You are the angel on his shoulder, and he is the devil. And you have this, I feel like he's the personification of intrusive thoughts, right? Probably thoughts that I would think Othello's had before, right?
Yeah.
But you're like, no, honey, you're great. No, you're not. No, you're good. And then he comes in and he sees the vulnerability.
Yeah.
And then he just pulls at it. And then you even try to pull him back. And anyways, very powerful.
You know, it's stuff like that you come up with that made me very proud to be your co-host. Really great.
Thank you. I didn't come up. I mean, it's just what I feel. It's an outpouring of the power of you guys' art.
Thank you so much.
I am a firm believer, and I think I've said it before on this podcast, that whenever we get to share in somebody's art, whether that's theater, painting, music, whatever it is, it feels like a piece of that person's soul that they're sharing with you. That even if it's just, seeing a show like this, and you see it, it's done, you're gone. It feels like you get to carry that with you, though. That little piece of that artist's soul, and it's just, oh God, it's so magical. Gives me chills to think about. So thank you to you guys, and then obviously the rest of the cast and the rest of the company for sharing that with us.
Of course. And we're sorry we couldn't have the whole cast here on the stage. It's just a lot of people.
Yeah.
I just want to say one last thing.
Sure.
Of how grateful I am for all of the folks in the cast and the production team and everybody who put this show up. But more importantly, for Rachel's vision for this. Because this has been like such, I wonder why I haven't done Shakespeare before. And it's probably because I haven't had somebody who's like, use the spark notes, you know, because.
Way to date yourself. I did as I dated myself. It's okay.
But like in the professional realm, there's this height and la 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 la. But to have a friend come and say, you can get this is totally for you, here, do this, and then to have her be a resource as she's putting together her vision has been just like a
Rachel's going to
experience.
make a lot of actors second guess not wanting to be in a Shakespeare.
Please come
Me,
on.
I never thought I'd be doing
Because it
Shakespeare.
has been an incredible experience.
Shakespeare's
Absolutely.
not pretentious. Shakespeare fans are pretentious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. 100%.
You
That
know,
part.
it's not. It's 60% crude jokes. I mean, if you really read it, you know, it's my goal, my mentor taught me this, and my goal is to just always make it accessible. And that's like, I mean, if you happen to come here, you happen to see the show, we did an art exhibit in the front window that is about making Shakespeare accessible to now, which is really interesting. So if you come see it, check it out.
Speaking of when you come see it, why don't we talk about dates, tickets? How do you get tickets? What are the dates?
Yeah.
Sure. So we run May 2nd to May 18th, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Tickets are on ptplayers.com. Please only get tickets from ptplayers.com. We're actually having we're having a little bit of scamming issues because of the New York show.
So I shouldn't have given money to that guy like that?
No,
down on the
if you're ever worried about it, you can call our, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but you can call our box office if you're worried about the ticket link being real. But if you go through our website, it will be.
Okay.
Okay.
And it's not $1,000.
It's not $1,000. Ours is like 20.
And as we said, it's not a show for kids. Just
No,
I
high school.
asked you earlier, like 16 and up, right?
Yeah.
And rightfully
High
so.
school,
Yeah,
see
I would
why.
say a lot of schools read this. So we're doing this actually for about 450 students on Tuesday. So high school's a good age for an age range for this high school.
They're going to go crazy, and they're going to go back to the classroom with like a whole new appreciation for what they're doing.
I hope so.
And they probably were walking in here thinking, I hate Shakespeare, I hate learning this, and they're going to walk out just loving it. Like,
That's always my
we
goal.
are. Thank you, and thanks to the rest of the cast. It's absolutely amazing.
Great.
And sitting up here with this set, man,
That's
it's
sick.
one of the best sets ever.
And I will say just one final note on all of this. I know Othello is a bit mired in a bit of controversy because of how in the past it's traditionally dealt with race and its treatment of people of color. Just want to assure you guys, Rachel deals with it very gracefully.
Thank you.
The way that you cast the show, it's there was still a layer, obviously, because it's written into it, right?
Absolutely.
But instead of being a main theme, it was instead just like a little like extra flavoring, you know, and not like the entire thing.
Yeah.
So mad props.
Thanks.
For doing that. And mad props to you guys, the entire cast and crew, for trusting you to do that.
I want to see it again.
Oh, I know, right?
Come.
Oh my God.
We open May 2nd.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll bring a few hundred friends.
Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you.
all right.
No, it's good enough to see again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again.
Thank you so much.
And that's about it, huh?
Yes, that is about it. So that brings us to the end of this episode with the amazing company of Othello at the Port Tobacco Players. Seriously, go get your tickets like right now. Because something tells me they're gonna start selling out, especially after those kids see it.
Yeah, word's
then
gonna get out.
Right, and then it's just gonna wildfire it. All right, as always, thank you so much, you beautiful human beings, for joining us on the ArtsFam podcast. We'll see you next week.
Take care.